this is an interesting interview that we're going into now. Now, I don't know if you've heard about it, but the 4-day working week model is now gaining popularity worldwide, and it's prompted South Africa to also conduct its first pilot in February 2023. Now, according to a workforce confidence survey, which surveyed 19,000 workers in 2022, 54% of all the workers surveyed said that a 4-day work week is among their top 3 priorities when it comes to workplace benefits. Now, the 4-day working week model results in an increased sense of productivity, employee efficiency, and it seemed to have improved employees' overall well-being. And the model does, however, also have its downside in that it perhaps will not work for all industries and businesses or even individuals. So to talk to us a little bit more about this, we are joined on the line right now via Zoom by Financial Director of Kigo Group SA, Michelle Austin. Michelle, good morning. Thanks so much for speaking to us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So let's start at the beginning. Where did this idea emanate, and more importantly, why?
I think that this idea has actually been around for quite a while. A lot of Europe actually has been working sort of 27-hour work hour weeks for quite a while. So it has been around for quite a while, and I think COVID has just highlighted the need for people to be able to be more flexible in their work schedules and perhaps be more productive at home and working with less distractions. So maybe they can get a bit more done in a shorter amount of time.
Well, speaking of productivity, some would argue that, South Africa perhaps isn't as productive as it should be. So let's talk to that in terms of, where this has been highlighted already in countries that have tried to dabble into this 4-day work week and how it effectively does impact productivity overall.
So I think there's been a couple of trials that have been run around the world, so basically in general what they've found is that people who are overworked, so where they have a very packed schedule, are less productive than those that work a normal work schedule. So there was a trial that was conducted in New Zealand recently, and basically they have managed to maintain their productivity levels. The employees have improved their job satisfaction. Teamwork and work-life balance have improved. Loyalty to the company has improved. And there's also been a decrease in stress levels from 45% to 38%. In contrast, if you look at a country like Japan, they are notorious for overworked employees, and they rank 20th out of 35 countries in terms of productivity. Their 4-day work week experiment led to a 40% increase in productivity. But there's a little bit of other data that has revealed that these benefits might only exist in the short term. So I do think that it's really industry specific or sector specific, and maybe even organization specific to see what the benefits are in those companies or in those sectors.
So before we talk about the sectors or the companies, Michelle, just looking at where it has been trialed, in terms of benefits to employees, salaries, for example, leave, how is that impacted by the 4-day work week?
So I think in general, I think it is something that needs to be a consultation process between the employees and the employer. So in terms of hours worked, in terms of days work, in terms of remuneration, I do think it is something that you can't just apply a blanket principle to every single entity or industry. So in general, the idea behind the work week, the 4-day work week, is that 1 day a week extra would be given off. So that may be a Friday, it may be a Monday, there may be a rotation type of thing with employees. So yeah, from a HR perspective, I think it can potentially get a little bit messy and a little bit difficult to manage.
So let's look at the sectors or industries where this model could potentially work and where it's unlikely to actually work. Michelle?
Okay, so places that I think it could work are industries, for instance, that are more predictable or where there's more independent work required. So examples like office work, professional services, those types of, or maybe even research, they can adjust their workflows and schedules more easily to accommodate the shorter work week without sacrificing productivity. However, industries that require some sort of consistent coverage and customer service might face challenges implementing it. So examples are retail, hospitality, emergency services, police services, public transport, and healthcare. And then there's also industries to consider like manufacturing, mining, or construction. So, I mean, it may be quite challenging for those industries to hold operations for an additional day a week, and it could result in additional costs for starting and stopping operations, and might actually result in lowering productivity. Yeah, it's something else to consider is that, especially in those types of industries where there's a lot of like hands-on work, we need to consider the occupational health and safety of those types of environments. Longer hours tend to lead to tired employees, and tired employees increase the risk of injuries.
And, unfortunately, we tend to see these developments where people are just trying to keep their heads above water economically and therefore would actually agree to working those longer hours, even though they may be exhausted and even burnt out in certain instances, which is really
100%.
unfortunate. But then, Michelle, with regard to the trial in South Africa for this year, do we know where that's going to happen?
To be honest, I'm not off the top of my head. I have read a little bit about it, but I haven't read enough about it. I am aware that it is starting in February, but unfortunately, at this point, I can't tell you much more.
It's a very interesting one because, one could imagine there would be the challenges, obviously, are always brought up first. But we live in a world where we've gone the other way, essentially, for the most part, because I can remember growing up, Saturdays and Sundays were more or less, proper close-up days. Saturdays, I think at 1, everything would be closed. So you'd have the
Yes.
greater part of Saturday, and Sunday would just have been that day where nothing was happening. And what we've seen over time, at least in my lifetime, your lifetime, is that that has been eroded to a point where every day is a work day now. You can basically access anything for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So
Yes.
what sort of resistance would you imagine there would be, especially from a very capitalistic society to actually moving backwards and taking more time for the individual and working slightly less?
To be honest with you, if I consider myself, so one of my frustrations during COVID was that the shops closed a lot earlier, and I couldn't get my groceries. So I used to be able to go to Woolies down my road, and it was open until 8 o'clock at night. And so I used to arrive at 7 o'clock and do my grocery shopping. And I think that we have become a society that is very reliant on things being available 24/7. So I think it's going to take a massive mind shift and culture change in everybody in South Africa to be able to adapt to it. And I mean, there are ways around it. We could implement things like shifts or rotations for duties and people, so that not everybody takes a Friday off or a Monday off, but they rather rotate. But that does bring challenges with it. So, I mean, it might be challenges could include things like employees more costs because we suddenly need to employ more people to be able to cover those costs. And things like teamwork might become a bit of a challenge in communication because not everybody is working all the time. And customers might get frustrated because they're dealing with one person and then on the Friday and on the Monday they're dealing with somebody else. So I definitely think from the general population, I think it's going to take a massive mind shift to be able to adjust to this 4-day work week.
And Michelle, just in closing, if you were to speak to employers right now watching this interview, of what benefit could something like this be? Of course, as you pointed out, notwithstanding that this is perhaps not suited to every single industry, but for those where this could be implemented, of what benefit would it be to them overall to actually consider moving to a 4-day work week?
So I think in general, it's had a massive impact on employee engagement, and employee engagement has shown to produce more productive employees and happier employees. And when employees are happy, they serve your company. And that's ultimately what you want, is employees who are fully engaged, that are looking after your company like you would. So I think that that's the first massive pro. I think that employees having a better work-life balance or work-life integration, I think that that's also would have a positive impact. It would mean that employees' well-being would be in general higher, and that also leads to more productive employees. I think it would also lead to loyalty to your company, and that is massive. The stress level decreases, I think, are also enormous. I mean, it would potentially lead to less time off work. And less time off work also means increased productivity. So I think there's a massive potential productivity improvement that as an employer you could look forward to.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how all of this develops. And Michelle, I'm going to look for it. And if you find it before we do, please let us know. We'd love to know where that trial is going to take place in South Africa in February 2023. We'll let you know, and let us know what your thoughts are as well. A 4-day work week. And obviously, we understand that this is obviously not something that will work in every single sector, but in the sectors where it could work, what are your thoughts? And whether you're an employer or an employee, how do you think things can be adapted in order to facilitate this? But we'll wait for your response and let us know what you think about this particular development. And that was Financial Director of Kigo Group SA, Michelle Austin, speaking to us about a 4-day work week model that is gaining popularity worldwide. And this has now prompted South Africa to conduct its first pilot in February 2023.